Hi, this is Larry Baucom with Susan Hickman and Brett Watson, and we're talking about one more thing. This weekend, you both were on stage at Suncoast talking about comparisons. And one of the places in the Bible where comparisons are noted was with the disciples. Tell me a little more about that, Brett.
Yeah, so that's the story about the two brothers, James and John, fishermen, and they were comparing the fish that they caught. Now, they were asking about who is going to sit at the right hand and the left hand of Jesus when the kingdom was ushered in. And so they were fighting about that. And Jesus' response to it was, you realize that you've got all this backwards.
Yeah.
That the kingdom of heaven isn't like that. It's not about who's better. In fact, the best of you will be those who serve.
And maybe the guys had it. 'Cause I remember another detail. Their mother. Which one of my boys is going to sit on the right hand? Which
right.
one of my boys? Let's just make it to where my boys are better than your boys anytime.
Yeah.
So in comparisons, that's often difficult. There's a difficult issue. But one of the things I wanted to bring out is the concept of one-upmanship. Are you familiar with that? One-upmanship, particularly for fishermen. What does it mean to fish? What is one-upmanship?
A fish this big.
And then I caught a fish this big. And then Brett?
This big.
Exactly. And we used to play this game particularly as when I worked with some teenagers to help them stop the one-upmanship. Because some people do it without even awareness, and they're comparing themselves to everyone else. And it goes something like this. Hey, my dad got a boat. Oh, that's great. How big is it? It's a 20-footer. Well, my uncle's got a 25-footer. Well, no problem. My grandfather's got a 30-footer. Well, that's okay. The guy down the street's got a 35, and it never ends. So we had to say, look, unless it happened to you, we can't use it as a point of reference. Or we'd say, hey, you're one-upping. And no one wanted to be caught one-upping, because when we make it not a positive thing, it shines a light on what our natural tendencies are. But don't you think our natural tendencies, though, are to try to one-up somebody?
Definitely. We're kind of hardwired that way.
Agreed.
I think a lot of times you'll see someone, when you're telling them a story, instead of listening to your story, their wheels are turning about their story and how it is going to one-up your story, instead of just genuinely hearing what you have to say.
Yeah, and it really serves us well, and I thought very well when you said when someone gets a car, you go out and just say, wow, that's the car I always wanted. I'm so happy that you have that.
I'm jealous, man. And just saying the word, it's just like, are you though? You know, it just kind of takes the sting out of that word or out of the emotion.
But even when you're not jealous,
right?
It's okay to go out and say, I'm happy for your successes.
Right.
I talked to someone recently who was just telling me how they scored real big with financially just a huge hit. And I said, I am so happy for you. That's wonderful. I know your life has not always been full of these great gifts. Now you have one. I'm just delighted for you. And it's not about jealousy. Oh, why didn't I get that?
Right.
That would be great. So comparisons. And in the comparison of Cain and Abel. Elaborate on that a little more, will you, Brett?
Yeah, so these are two brothers also, and it's right there at the front of the Bible, chapter 4. They both bring offerings before the Lord. The Lord looks with favor on Abel's offering, does not with Cain's. Cain gets jealous to the point of rage and ends up killing his brother Abel.
That's taking the one-upmanship just a little too far.
Yeah, really far.
But it really shows what can happen when you begin to compare my sacrifice with yours, or your acceptance is greater than mine. Something happens within us that is not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's a commandment that says, don't covet. Why?
It doesn't make you feel good. I think one of the points we were trying to make is when you feel good within yourself, and it goes back to the confidence you talked about the first week. When you have that self-confidence and things are going well for you, it's easy to celebrate others' wins. It's easy to be happy for someone, but that's also a win for you, because you know that you're feeling good enough about yourself to where you can celebrate other people's wins. So it's that. Yeah, it's a win for you.
And I lost it. What was the question again, though? I was thinking about a better story.
Well,
Were you trying to one-up me?
yeah, I had a better. I wasn't listening to you. I was thinking.
He was over there thinking
Obviously,
about how to
wasn't
one-up
thinking
me.
very clearly.
All right, well, go for it.
But I think that sometimes when we get to the point where we try to one up or we compare ourselves to others, it's not healthy for us. And we do it, and it's okay to compare ourselves with when is let me rephrase that. When is it okay to compare ourselves?
When I'm more concerned with the better version of me. So if I see qualities in a person that I respect and admire, that's fine. As long as I'm looking at those things, those qualities, and considering how I can become a better version of me rather than how can I become that person. And this is actually what I was going to say before, that this keeps the focus on the person that the focus should be on, you and your development.
Right. So how does competition work in this whole thing of comparisons? I mean, we have so many different things that we compete with. We compete in sports, NASCAR, whether it's baseball, football, soccer, hockey. All the different things are levels of competition. And we, even with kids, we push them, hey, we want to be the best. We want to be number one. Of course, with the Bucks this year, we won the Super Bowl. We all rejoice in that. But, guess what? Whether they win or lose, I hope I'm able to sleep that night. Right.
Exactly.
So, sometimes when the team is really bad, you don't have any bragging rights. But when your team goes well, you kind of associate with this winning attitude. And that's one of the things we want to implement is teach people how to have the right attitude of celebrating others' wins. And when we do that, the whole collective seems to do better. But when is competition, we talk about this a little bit with other things, but when is competition, you think, out of bounds? And what realms should we really not keep score?
I think we were talking about in the arts, when, children have different levels of talent, be it singing or playing the piano. And our society, with The Voice and American Idol, it's all very subjective, but we put it out there as a competition. And it's not that you sing better than that person sings. It's, 3 people up there going, what a performance. And then people get to call in and say who they liked more. It's more of a popularity thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I had kids that played a lot of piano, and it really annoyed me when they'd have a competition in music, and you take home the trophy because you're the best pianist. Well, no, not necessarily. You may have greater talent, but you may have been practicing for 5 years, and the other person's been there 1 year. And I think certain things are not, you don't get points and scored after you play a piano like you would a ball game. So some things are not meant to be judged, but we are so competitive that I think it comes in many areas of our life.
And even where you have competition in sports, the reason that it's healthy is because of the most important aspect or the most important lesson that's learned in sports, and that is good sportsmanship, where you're more concerned with those qualities, where it's not about just beating somebody, it's about becoming a better team player and so on.
And I wish I could tell you that all sports teach us sportsmanship. Remember the tennis player who had the attitude? Yeah, I don't want to mention John McEnroe, but he was always displaying poor sportsmanship when things didn't go his way.
Yeah, you didn't want your kids watching that guy.
But I mean, the guy's a great tennis player. Nobody denies that. And but at some point, we need to not take ourselves so seriously and step back and go, in the scope of things, this is okay. Yeah. So comparisons, competition, contrasts. Where are we compared to other people? I think that was a very good rule of life that we learn not just from Jordan Peterson, but also from the Bible. It doesn't pay us very well when we compete. When we compete or when you compare with me and you're better than me, how does that make you feel?
Great.
Yeah. Arrogant. Egotistical. Now it's different when I feel I'm better than you, but let's say that all of a sudden when I feel less than you, then I don't have the right feelings. I feel like there's coveting and there's envy that goes on, and when I feel like I'm at the head of the pack, it's pride and lack of humility and self-centeredness. And when I feel like I'm not the winning person, then there's envy and disgust and the whole thing, and which leads me to the last point we're going to talk about today. Competition or comparisons in social media.
Yuck.
So tell us that quote again that you did from the weekend about the highlight reel.
Oh, yeah. Andy Stanley says the reason that we suffer so much from insecurities is we are comparing our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. And even though you know that that's everybody's best, that their best foot that they're putting forward on that social media, there's still that part of you saying, I wish my life looked like that. Even if it's buried deep inside, and you're not, you're not openly going, I wish my relationship looked like that, or I wish I could go on that vacation. There's something still playing in your mind, in your subconscious, that's not healthy.
Right.
It's just not a good thing for you.
No.
If nothing else, it's an environment of untruth.
Yeah.
So much of it anyway.
I agree.
So,
Yeah.
So when you look at, in the Old Testament it says, do not covet another man's wife. And you say, well, she's prettier than my wife, but everyone has their issues. And one of my friends, Pete, says, you go into a situation, you want to compare problems. You say, okay, let's throw all our problems on the table. And then at the end, when you get ready to leave, you realize I'm going to take my problems back because they're probably not as great as others. And so it doesn't matter when you say, oh, that looks good. There's a price to be paid for everything. And some people are unwilling to pay the price. Some people will never pay the price. Even if they can afford it, they say, it's not that important to me. But I think comparing myself to others, it's not my best foot forward.
No.
So, and kudos, by the way, on the closing story. Brilliant. I loved it.
Oh, that was very
It's a twinkle,
sweet.
twinkle, little star. Very nicely done. So, anyways, thanks for joining us today for One More Thing.
Thanks for having us.